The Tiger Speaks to You. Tales from the Wild Imagination. Sweet Rampion, a Grimm's fairy tale. Once, long ago, a husband and wife lived in a far-away land. They had everything they could want except a child, and from their house the wife would look out upon the neighbour's garden. Such a garden it was, with plants growing and thriving. There were apple trees, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, rhubarb. Such a garden. And best of all, there was a patch of rampion, sweet rampion. Said the wife, and every day, more and more, she longed for the delicious taste of sweet rampion. And yet she dare not ask her neighbour for some, for her neighbour was a witch. Greedy and cruel-hearted was she. And so, day by day, the good wife pined away. She became sick. Her cheeks were pale, her face was wan, her eyes downcast. "Oh, wife, what troubles you?" said the husband. "Shall I fetch a doctor?" "No," said the wife. "No, it's no use." And her eyes gazed longingly at the sweet rampion growing in the garden. "Are you sad because you long for a child?" said the husband. "Well, yes," said the wife, "and—" The husband could see her eye fixed upon the rampion, and he said, "You want some of the witch's rampion, don't you? My dear wife, I will fetch it for you, even though it is dangerous and even though I am scared. For love conquers fear, and I love you, and so I will creep into the witch's garden and I will do this thing." Well, the husband crept into the witch's garden, through the plants growing so thickly and well, and he gathered a bunch of sweet rampion, leaf and root, and he brought it back to his wife. Well, at once she made a salad, a delicious salad, and as she ate it up, the sweet rampion restored the colour to her cheeks. Her eyes became brighter. Her face seemed to glow, and she was happy again. And her husband was glad to see his wife so happy. But as the days passed, once again his wife grew paler, and the life seemed to drain out of her. Well, the husband knew what he must do. He must go again into the witch's garden, and this he did. As he was gathering an armful of rampion, he looked up, and what did he see but a tall figure? It was the witch. She towered above him, and with eyes like ice she said, "How dare you take my rampion?" The witch, though she was pleasing enough to the eye, there was something ugly about her. Her ugliness was an ugliness of heart, not of face. She seemed to be 1,000 years old, and cold as stone, or metal and bleak as bone. "Oh, have mercy, have mercy," said the good husband. "I am just taking the rampion for my wife. She is sick, she needs it." "You have taken from me," said the witch, "and so I will take from you. Your wife will give birth to a girl, and when the girl is born, she will be mine. I will take her from you. So now you may go, gather as much rampion as you want, but when the child is born, it shall be mine." And with this, the good husband returned to his wife, and now he could give her as much rampion as she needed. His wife was well, hale and hearty, with rosy cheeks and eyes that glowed like stars. And in time she gave birth to a beautiful girl. The girl was called Sweet Rampion, just like the plant her mother had eaten, and everybody agreed she was as beautiful as a flower. Well, sad indeed were the mother and father when they had to give this beautiful child to the witch. The witch took the child and was jealous of her beauty, and wouldn't let anybody see the beautiful child. And when the child was 12 years old, so jealous was the witch that she built a tall tower and put Sweet Rampion in the tower so that nobody could see her, so that nobody could talk to her. As Sweet Rampion grew, her hair grew with her. But when Sweet Rampion stopped growing, her hair did not. Her hair was like a long, gold, winding river. Such long, golden hair. And it was upon this long, golden hair that the witch climbed. There were no doors into the tower. Instead, the witch would call out, "Sweet Rampion, Sweet Rampion, let down your hair." And her golden hair would flow from the tall tower, and it would reach to the ground below. And upon this hair the witch would clamber and crawl like a scurrying creature. And so the witch would visit Sweet Rampion, but nobody else could get into the tower. Sweet Rampion spent her days playing the harp and singing and embroidering, but she was lonely. Only the birds would visit her for company, and they would sing to her, and she would sing to them. It happened that one day as she was singing, a prince heard her song, and he peered to look. Imagine his surprise when he saw the witch, and he heard her call out, "Sweet Rampion, Sweet Rampion, let down your hair." And he saw the witch clamber upon Rampion's hair. Well, the prince returned a few days later, and he called out just as the witch had done, "Sweet Rampion, Sweet Rampion, let down your hair." And he, in his turn, clambered up the hair. Great was Rampion's surprise as she saw not the witch, but a handsome young man. The prince was kind and gentle to Rampion. He spoke to her softly, and she much preferred him to the witch. "I love you," said the prince, and he gave her a ring. "I love you too," said Rampion. and I would leave with you this very day, but I've got no way out. The only way in is upon my hair. I have an idea. Every time you visit me, bring a measure of silk, and by day, with my skilful fingers, I will weave a ladder. And when the ladder is done, I shall climb down the ladder, and we will be together. And so it was that every day the prince returned with a length of silk, and soon the ladder would be ready. Well, one day the witch was visiting, and she clambered up Rampion's hair, and when Rampion saw her, she said, "Old mother, you take such a long time to get up. The prince is much quicker." "What did you say?" said the witch. I, I said, you take such a long time to come up. The prince is much quicker." "I knew it, I knew it," said the witch. "Eyes other than mine have seen you, but no more." And she grabbed the long iron scissors with one hand, and with the other she pulled Rampion's long golden hair, and clip, 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 she cut off the hair. She held it in her hand, and she tied it around a hook, and then she took sweet Rampion to a lonely desert and said, "This shall be your home. No eyes shall see you but mine." And now Rampion lived in a desert, and the witch waited. She waited, and she said to herself, "The prince is coming. The prince is coming for his little bird." But a cat has got the bird, and a cat will scratch out his eyes. And so the next day, when the prince came to visit, when he called out, "Sweet Rampion, sweet Rampion, let down your hair," the witch took the long golden hair from the hook, and she released it from the window and let it fall to the ground. And the prince, he climbed up, and his horror was vast when he saw, instead of Rampion, a witch that looked 1,000 years old. In his despair, the prince flung himself from the window, but the witch made a spell as he fell, so that when he landed, he did not die, but was blinded by the thorns and brambles there. Now the poor prince was blind and lost. He must search for his love, and so he wandered from place to place, calling, "Sweet Rampion, sweet Rampion." Long was his journey from place to place, and soon his clothes were ragged and torn. His arms and legs were scratched. The sun baked him. The ice froze him. His eyes ached, and he called, "Sweet Rampion, sweet Rampion." Well, eventually, he stumbled into the desert where sweet Rampion was. And as he called out, "Sweet Rampion," she heard him. She had been in the desert, and it was in the desert that she had given birth to twins. When she saw her beloved, she ran towards him. She held him in her arms, and 2 tears fell from her eyes upon those blind eyes of the prince. And as the tears touched his eyes, the witch's spell was broken, and he could see once again. The prince and the princess returned to the prince's kingdom with their children, and all was well for them. And the witch, well, eventually her cruelty caught up with her, for she was eaten up by a wolf. The wolf ate every part of her except her chicken-like hands. These he left, and they were eaten up by the beetles and worms. The Tiger Speaks to You, Tales from the Wild Imagination.